In this video, we will try to understand the difference between odds and probabilities. Suppose that you will roll a 6-sided die. To calculate the probability of rolling a 6, we divide the number of possible successful outcomes by the total number of possible outcomes, which is 6 because the die has 6 sides. Since only 1 out of 6 sides on the die can result in a 6. The probability of rolling a 6 is 1 over 6. To calculate the corresponding odds, we divide the possible number of successful outcomes by the number of possible unsuccessful outcomes, which is 5, because 5 out of the 6 sides will result in another value than 6. The odds is therefore 1 over 5, which is usually denoted as 1 to 5. If we roll the die 6 times, we would expect to get 1 successful outcome and 5 unsuccessful outcomes. We therefore say that the odds is 1 to 5. Note the difference. When we calculate the probability, we divide by all possible outcomes. And when we calculate the odds, we only divide by the number of unsuccessful outcomes. Now, what is the probability of rolling a 6 or a 5? Since we now have 2 possible successful outcomes out of 6 possible, the probability is 2 over 6, which is about 33%. The odds of rolling a 6 or a 5 is 2 over 4. Because there are now 2 possible successful outcomes and 4 possible unsuccessful outcomes, the probability of rolling a 6, 5, or a 4 is 3 over 6, or 50%. In comparison, the corresponding odds is 3 over 3, or 1 to 1, because 3 sides might result in a successful outcome, and 3 sides might result in an unsuccessful outcome. If we would roll the die 2 times, we would expect to get 1 successful outcome and 1 unsuccessful outcome. The probability of not rolling a 6 is equal to 5 over 6, whereas the corresponding odds is 5 to 1, because there are now 5 possible successful outcomes and only 1 unsuccessful outcome. We'll now see how we can convert a probability to odds. Suppose that we know that the probability of rolling a 5 is 1 over 6. To convert the probability to odds, we can use the following formula, where we plug in the probability and do the math. An odds of 0.2 corresponds to an odds of 1 over 5. Note that the odds can be seen as the probability of a successful outcome divided by the probability of an unsuccessful outcome, which is equal to 1 minus the probability of a successful outcome. The probability to get a 5 is 1 over 6, and the probability that we do not get a 5 is 5 over 6. Similarly, we can convert an odds to a probability with the following formula. If we plug in the odds and do the math, we see that the probability is 1 over 6. One interesting difference between probabilities and odds is that the probability can only take values between 0 and 1, whereas the odds can range between 0 and positive infinity. For example, if there are relatively few successful outcomes, the probability of a successful outcome is close to 0, which is true also for the odds. However, if there is a relatively large number of possible successful outcomes, the probability will be close to 1, whereas the odds will be much larger than 1. Note that logged odds can take values between negative infinity and positive infinity. Suppose that we would have probability values that are uniformly distributed between 0 and 1. If we would calculate the odds based on these probabilities, the odds will have a skewed distribution, because about half of the odds will be between 0 and 1, whereas the other half will span between 1 and positive infinity. If we log the odds, the values will be approximately normally distributed. This was the end of this video about the differences between probabilities and odds. Thanks for watching.